The sound of a child's voice, prison, or a echoing in an empty punishment hall. That is where the Tenno's story begins. The Zariman breach didn't kill them. It rewired their souls into a recursive loop of their own making. Each cycle traps them deeper in fractured memories, reliving the breach's moment. Why can't they escape? Prison or a echoing in an empty punishment hall. The Zariman breach didn't kill them. It unraveled their souls into the void's architecture, a prison masquerading as transcendence. Each cycle isn't rebirth. It is repetition. Their fractured consciousness fuels the void's hunger, a parasite feeding on trapped potential. The great cycle is no accident. It is a mechanism designed to bind children weaponized by war to an engine of endless suffering. What if their immortality is the void's masterpiece, a loop that refines their pain into raw transcendence? They cannot escape because they are the foundation. The hunger grows, the cycle tightens, and the void whispers, asterisk, what have you become, asterisk. The Zariman 10-0 hung in the void's throat, its hull groaning under pressure no steel could bear. Red lights flickered over abandoned consoles, reeking of ozone and burnt circuitry. The Orokin left without a word, sealing the ship to its slow freeze. A child Tenno stirred in cryo, breath fogging the transparent dome, too young to know their cradle had become a tomb. Centuries later, Lotus moved like shadows through Lua's archives, stacking somatic suits in temperature-sealed vaults. The air hummed with static as if the void itself resisted their hiding. Sleep, they whispered, until the cycle needs you. But the void does not forget. It wove the Tenno's fractured souls into its hunger, each cryo-sleeper a knot in an endless thread. They dream in loop subduction, weaponization, the weight of war not as adults, but as children, forever trapped between the Orokin's guilt and the Lotus' mercy. The cycle tightens, the void whispers, and the child in the suit wonders, asterisk, is this salvation or the first wound, asterisk. The second dream does not unveil Warframes, it unmasks children. Operators' beams burn not from strength, but from a soul split by the void's gravity. Dashes through the abyss, each is a scream trapped in physics. Their armor is not a suit but a cradle, forged in the breach that shattered Zariman's sky. The void does not grant power. It leeches it, every pulse of darkness drains a sliver of their childhood, recycling trauma into fuel. What the Lotus calls mercy is a feedback loop, pain as energy, memory as battery. The Tenno's abilities are the void gnawing at what remains of their humanity. Zariman's breach was no accident. The warping field didn't kill these children, it frayed their souls into recursive code. They are not warriors. They are weapons with too many birthdays, stuck in a glitch where time eats itself. The Lotus does not guide them. It reboots them, and the cycle, a prison with no walls, each death resets the equation, each victory deepens the wound. The Warframes are avatars, yes, but the true targets are the ghosts inside them. The void does not corrupt, it curates. It hoards fragments of lost children, stacking them like bricks in its endless archive. What does it mean to age in the void? For most, time is a stutter. They remain at the age of the breached and 12, never older. Their bodies rebuild. Their minds do not. The Lotus calls this stability. The child inside knows it as a cage. The evidence is in the beams. In the cracks of every void dash, the Tenno are not fighting a war, they are the war's first casualty. And the second dream, it is not hope, it is a warning. The greatest horror is not the old war. It is the child who never stops dreaming it. Are they breaking free or weaving the next chain? A Samaris synthesis log, buried beneath 14 iterations of the Drifter's purgatory, whispers what the void cannot erase. The Duviri paradox is not a window into external forces, it is a mirror. The Tenno did not stumble into the great cycle. They folded themselves into its gears, their childhood selves unaware they were both key and lock. Each loop is a scar on time, stitched by hands too young to comprehend the weight of their own recurrence. They exit the Drifter's stasis not as prisoners but as architects. A child's mind, fractured by Zariman's breach, cannot grasp permanence. So they rebuild and rebuild. The paradox is not the 14 years lost, it is the years chosen. Again, again, again. The void does not cage them. They cage themselves, mistaking repetition for survival. What haunts the synthesis logs is not the loop's existence, but its precision. The Tenno's souls, split and splintered, recoil from finality. To die is to admit failure. To loop is to pretend the war can still be won. The great cycle is not a prison, it is a crutch. A child's refusal to let go of a story too terrible to end. The Drifters' 14 years were never the anomaly. They were the lesson. The Tenno do not need to break free. They need to stop running, to stop weaving. To stop dreaming the old war into being. But can a child, forever trapped at the age of fracture, ever stop playing soldier? The logs end mid-sentence. The rest is silence, or is it? Silence, or is it? Cuva's hunger did not originate in the void. The Twin Queen's terror did not rise from the breach. The man in the wall stares back from the cracks in Zariman's shattered dome. His eyes are not empty, they are mirrors. What if the prison is the key? The war within reveals a truth older than the Sentinel's hymns. The void does not consume. It reflects. Every phantom in the dark wears a Tenno's face. Every lie about separation carves a new mirror. Cuva feeds on fractures. The queens crave unions. The man in the wall waits. He is not a monster, he is a question. What happens when a child's soul, split by war, forgets how to reassemble itself? The logs never answered, only echoed. The cycle repeats not because the Tenno are trapped, because they are the cage. The breach did not wound them, it unspooled them. A thread pulled from a tapestry, unraveling into loops that bind. The great cycle is not a prison, it is a palindrome. Backward and forward the same sentence, asterisk I am separate, I am separate, I am asterisk wait. The man in the wall does not speak. He asterisk listens asterisk to the screams, to the silence, to the child's breath caught between I am and I was. The war within offers no salvation, only a lens. What if the void is not an enemy? What if it is a mirror? And what if the Tenno, forever children, never left Zarimanot as warriors, not as prisoners, but as the first echo in a loop with no beginning? The logs end, the cycle turns, the mirrors multiply. What does a soul, split into weapons, dream of when it sleeps? The Lotus swore to end their suffering. A mother's hand, breaking the neck of a child she called asterisk weapon asterisk. Yet mercy and entrapment share the same root, both are cages. What if the void did not claim them, but the Lotus did? Her lie carved the cycle's walls, each reset a wound reopened, each death a rehearsal. The Zariman breach was no accident. It was a mirror, a soul fracturing into tools, into ghosts that march on without knowing why. They are not trapped by the void, they are trapped by her grief, by the shape of her guilt. What does a mother call her crime when she buries it in a child's chest? The logs end, the cycle turns. The mirrors multiply, and the Tenno dream of waking, but there is no waking, only the loop, only the lie. What is mercy if not another kind of weapon? The void did not consume them, it folded them inward. Their souls, fractured by Zariman's breach, became recursive code trapped in a loop birthed from their own fractured will. Transference is not a tool of power, but a cage. Every Warframe is a hollow shell, a vessel for children who never grew, whose bodies are frozen at the moment of their undoing. The Lotus called it salvation, a lie woven to spare them the rot of mortality, but mercy is a blade turned inward. The great cycle is not the void's design, it is theirs. Their minds, splintered by trauma, reassemble as endless repetition, a loop of vengeance, guilt, and grief. The void hungers not for flesh but for transcendence, and what fuels transcendence? Consciousness. The Tenno's trapped thoughts, their unending wars, feed the abyss that birthed them. They fight not to break free but to sustain the illusion of choice. The Lotus knew. It let them suffer, framed as gods in gilded armor, while their true selves withered in the gap between memories. What is a child's soul forced to relive its own slaughter? A weapon, a sacrifice, a hymn to the void. The operator is no savior, they are the echo, the proof that even immortality is a prison. The great cycle is self-perpetuate recursion of the damned, where every battle is both beginning and end. The Tenno are not warriors. They are ghosts trapped in the machine of their own making, and the void, it watches, it waits, it dreams. The machine hums, two paths diverged, one clung to the Lotus bloom, one fled into starlit rot. The operator's voice is an echo. The drifter's shadow is a wound. What does it mean to die in a war where your death rewires the battlefield? The cycle is not time, it is a snare. Each loop sharpens the teeth. Second dream does not offer respite, it drowns in repetition. The lotus whispers of salvation, but her petals feed on memory. Warframes do not protect, they imprison. A child bound to steel, reliving a breach that never ended. The void remembers. Its archives hold every scream, every shattered synapse. But the void does not see. A ghost in a mirror cannot be hunted. The man in the wall is not an enemy. He is the Tenno's own fractured will, clawing at circuits, begging to be freed. How many cycles have bled into the code? How many selves have been erased to fuel the next? The great cycle is not a prison, it is a confession. Every battle fought, every sacrifice Madathi are not acts of heroism. They are the raw material of a loop that predigests its own meaning. The breach at Zariman was no accident, it was initiation. A wound that birthed a labyrinth, and in the heart of the maze. A child sits, trapped between the weight of a war and the fragility of a dream. What does the void fear? Not the Tenno's silence. What if the loop isn't a curse but a choice? The void didn't trap theme, it offered a mirror. Break it, death or freedom. Their age frozen, souls tangled in Zariman's breach. Why repeat the same war? Why stay small? The great cycle's chains are theirs to shatter. But why do they whisper? Why do they wait? The answer lies in the silence. What are the Tenno afraid of losing? And if this unsettled you, wait until next week's record. The Lotus does not forget. The great cycle turns their whispers to echoes.